Welcome to the HMO Property Podcast, where we connect, educate, and inspire the UK's HMO property community. So stop what you're doing, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. What's up, HMO Nation, and welcome to another episode of the HMO Property Podcast with me, Rupert Wallace. In this episode, we're interviewing successful HMO property investor, Julian Maurice. Julian is going to take us on his HMO property investment journey, including the ups, the downs, the highs, and the lows. Now, Julian's been investing in HMOs for some 15 years now. He's been involved with over 200 projects. He currently houses 20 tenants himself in one location. So let's jump straight in. So, Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Before we dive into the details, tell us about yourself. Give us your background before you started your HMO journey.
Okay. Background. Oh gosh. All right. Want to go back to the beginning?
I do.
Okay. Left school at 16. Screwed up my O-levels, bummed around Europe for quite some time, became a DJ, rave parties, stuff like that, did it to death, decided I needed to get serious, so got a job in an estate agency, then went into lettings, then started my own business in 2002, started sourcing, that was a sourcing business, and then it very quickly went into building refurbishment and spent 15 years refurbishing properties for investors and doing furnishing contracts and show homes. And then 5 years ago started investing myself in HMOs.
Excellent. What a journey before HMOs. Come on, give us a rave DJ story.
Oh, what? I couldn't. It wouldn't be you. No, I couldn't.
Okay. Fine.
I think you just have to get a picture in your mind's eye of rave DJ and what you'd get up to if you're doing stuff like that.
Okay.
Your imagination.
Enough said. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, how did you actually end up taking the step getting into HMOs?
Okay. So my mother actually called me. She was in a kind of not a brilliant place, and she was having to dip into her savings every month to pay whatever she needed to pay, and she became ill. So she came up to me and said, Julian, look, I'm actually losing money every month, and I've got some money. What if I gave it to you to put down on a house, and you paid me the whatever profit back, and then, if anything happens to me, then you can keep the house. So I thought, fine, I'm helping her, and she wanted it doing, and she needed to get an income. So I bought a little house that I thought was quite nice, and I was going to do it as a single let, because I was actually not. I'd seen all this hoo-ha about HMOs, but because I'd been renovating them for quite some time, the horror stories that I'd seen had kind of scared me off, really wanting to do an HMO. So I was doing this house as a single let. And then I thought, I'd been going to a few property meetings, and I kind of thought, well, what if I gave it a go and just turn this little house into a 3-bed HMO? Everyone was saying, no, it's got to be 6-bed and bigger. But I thought, well, if I turn it into a 3-bed HMO, it'll double the income on that house. So there was nothing to lose, really. So I just turned it into a 3-bed HMO, and it was ready on the 21st of December. Whenever it was, whatever year it was, and literally after putting it in spare room, it rented really, really quickly, like bang, gone, and the income started coming in. So that's what got me started. That's really what got me started on investing.
Got it. Do you think anything was holding you back from getting into HMOs?
Yeah, well, my fear was, they were just low quality. To be honest, all the landlords they were either student. So when I started, when I'd been working in HMOs, there were really two types. There was the student HMO, which was normally just a shithole, and then you had there wasn't professional HMOs about. It was just kind of blue collar, DSS, whatever, and that kind of thing, and they were shitholes. So basically, you've got two types of product that were just problems, you know, and I'd seen it. Yeah. So it would scare anyone off, really, to be honest with you, that worked in it and seen what happens to them after a few years and how the tenants treat them and all the aggro that you get. So, you know, that scared me off. But then I thought, I'm investing in a small property. I'll do it in a small way. I'm not going to have a big, like, you know, 6 rooms. I'm just going to have 3. And I managed it myself, and actually it was a pleasant surprise at how not bad it was.
It's always worth just before you go into a strategy, just testing it out in a small way. I think that's a really wise move. Tell us about that first HMO deal, when it was, what year, what you bought it for, what you spent on it, and what it cash flowed. Give us a flavor.
Okay, so first, what year was it? I think it was January 14 that the tenants moved in. Yeah, January 14. I bought it for 74,000. It was on I think it was on an 85 or something like that. So but it was a probate. So it was, you know, and there was damp in the kitchen. Now, most people are scared of damp. When they see proper damp, you know, like plaster coming off walls, it does scare people away. But it didn't scare me because I'd done a lot of basement conversions. So I knew that it was a fairly straightforward fix. So what else do you want to? Okay, that was the thing. Refurb cost was about 20k. I did do a lot of the work myself. I didn't have that much to do, so I did it a lot of it myself. I didn't do the electrical work, obviously, and the gas, but I did a lot of the kitchen fitting. I did the bathroom, etc. So 20k was the refurb cost. I think left in 40k. So I left in 40k because at the time I was just really wasn't expecting to do more. I was just kind of, let's get this one right, and I didn't think I was going to pull money out and do it again, and I would have been happy with that on its own, to be honest with you, at the time. You know, it was anyway. So that was the numbers: 74, 40k left in. The rental income after all the costs came in at around about 650 a month.
Great.
That's net cash flow. So I'm not sure, but I think the return on investment is around about 19% on those figures. Although ROI is a funny figure, to be honest with you. I was just really keen on the cash flow. So my mother was happy. She got a very good return on her investment. It was a good exercise. I wasn't making any money from it because it was all going to my mother. I didn't think anything serious was going to happen to her. And we had an agreement that after 5 years, I would either have to give her the £40,000 or sell the house and give her the capital appreciation. So that was the deal. Unfortunately, she got very, very ill and she passed away. So that's now in my hands, that property. So what else do you want to know? What else do you want to know? You've got the cash flow, you've got all the numbers, you've got the story behind it.
Great deal. No, I think that's a really good example for HMO Nation of, you know, how to test the water with your first HMO property deal. You don't have to be going after a 20 bed. It's a really good example.
And that's from somebody with 15 years working with landlords with HMOs. So it wasn't as if I didn't have a lot of experience. It still scared the shit out of me. It did.
And the truth of it is, it scares the hell out of many people.
Yeah.
That's part of the property journey, that, you know, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again and never try anything new, the chances are your growth is going to be limited. So, you know, it's good to know that even a professional like yourself, 15 years experience, you know, still has doubts over a particular strategy and has actually gone about testing it in a really valid way.
Thank you.
Julian, how has investing in HMOs since that point, since you started, how has it changed your life?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
It's had a massive impact.
Tell us.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I had this kind of, you know, we've all got a kind of target, I guess, haven't we? An inner target. And my inner target was to, when they say replace income, I don't think I've replaced income, although I'm making as much money from HMOs now as I wanted to make, as if I wanted to replace my income. So I've achieved this level, which I'm very happy with. I've done a lot of reinvesting the money. So while you're getting it in, you do reinvest it while you're building it up. So you don't actually see the fruits of your labor for quite some time if you're building it up. So, but how's it changed my life? There came a point about a year ago where I realized that I didn't actually have to get out of bed in the morning. I have been getting out of bed, obviously, because I love. While I've been building up the HMOs, I have been doing stuff that I really, really enjoy, that I've monetized, and I would not want to give that up because I love doing it. So, if you love what you do, it's not like work. So I've got that side of things. Then I've got the HMOs bringing in a good income, and so I realized that actually I've got time on my hands. And they say time is money. Well, time for me is incredibly precious. I've been working all that time and that's really was my goal at the beginning, was to give myself more time. And I then realized, actually woke up one day and thought, shit, I've got more time. When that happens, weird stuff happens, because obviously you've got more time to think. And a lot of people say it's quite a lonely journey. And yeah, it is. And I guess what happened was I really felt lonely for a while. But the adventure and the challenge and the really good thing is I've actually learned to be really comfortable in my own skin since that happened. Because I do stuff. I'll take myself on hikes. I'll take myself off to the mountains, climb a mountain. I'll go to the gym. And I'll do my other stuff, all around stuff. So I've got lots of time. I'm able to make the most of that time, spend that time wisely and enjoy it.
Most of us, when we have that free time, we all have this sense of guilt, like we should be working. So what a wonderful feeling that HMOs have given you, not only that time, but the appreciation of time. Because it would be you're right, HMOs or property in general can be a very lonely journey. And there's a famous Casey Neistat quote, which is, a life not shared is a life not lived. And now you have that time to share your life with whoever you want, doing whatever you want. So I really like that story. Cool. I really like that.
Cool. So do I.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Julian. What is your favorite part of HMO property investing?
My favorite bit is giving somebody a really great place to live and knowing that they've got a great home. I'm giving them a great home to live in, that they're going to enjoy, they're going to take pride in it, and they're going to make friends. They're going to move on at some point, but I've given them an environment that's safe, they're happy to be in. I get texts from them saying that they're really, whatever, they're having a good, whatever, some of them mow the lawn or whatever it is, but I know that that I'm giving people a great place to live, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction, especially if you can monetize it.
Exactly. I mean, if only more landlords thought like that, hey?
Then I wouldn't be I wouldn't be as successful, because it makes a difference. That's a good difference to have, and I'm happy to have that. I'm happy to be like that.
Good. It obviously makes you happy. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Julian, we've talked about the past, but before we move on to the present and your future plans in HMO property, let's take a minute to thank our sponsors.
Are you looking for an effortless HMO mortgage experience? If that's a yes, there's only one place to go: www.thehmomortgagebroker.co.uk, the UK's #1 specialist HMO mortgage broker. They're so specialised that they don't do anything else. HMO mortgages, HMO remortgages, and HMO bridging. That's it. They have access to every HMO lender out there, and even some exclusive products not available to other brokers. With lightning fast service and A1 communication, they're easily the best HMO broker in town. So to experience HMO lending made easy, go to www.thehmomortgagebroker.co.uk today.
So Julian, fast forwarding to the present day, tell us a bit more about your portfolio.
All right. It's fluctuating at the moment. I'm getting rid of something that isn't performing that well. So there's a shift. I mean, I could be split. What do you want to know? Numbers for how many houses I've got, whatever. I'd rather talk about what I'm actually doing with it and how it's manifesting itself in a kind of day-to-day business sense, really, to be honest with you. I do have an asset that is probably now got quite a bit of equity in it, and I'm when you start seeing how well things can perform on paper, then you kind of take a look at things and think, what have I got that's underperforming, and can I do anything with that to make the money perform better? And so I'm in that process at the moment. I've been upgrading my first HMO because you may want to touch upon that later. But yeah, so I'm shifting things around. But I had a real stress actually. About 2 months ago, I'd actually just finishing off my most recent acquisition. So that was a 3-bed, and as that was just coming up to completion, I think I had half of my tenants all give me notice within literally 1, 2, 3 weeks. Wow. And I had loads of people saying we want to move on. Now that on top of the fact I had this new HMO coming up, and they're all in the same location, I was shitting myself. But it hasn't taken me long. There is obviously the market's tougher now because I've got more competition. The competition's better. So I wasn't, that's the thing, is it doesn't get any less stressful because you've got the market's changing all the time, and you just got to keep on top of it. So I was worried that I wasn't keeping on top of it, but apparently, I have been, because all the rooms rented out really, really quickly, and I'm back to 100%. By the weekend, I'll be back up to 100%, even though I had, a substantial number of rooms to mess around with. It's never happened to me before where all of them, but I do keep my tenants long term. So it's and they all kind of, So that's what happened. So there's been that going on, and now I'm up to 100% again, which is great. But I'm actually just accepted an offer on an asset. I'm getting rid of that. I'm going to move some cash about, and then try to get it performed as best I can.
Lovely.
Yeah. I don't have many properties. I've got 4 now. So 4 HMOs, but they've, like I said,
Perfect.
You asked me about the lifestyle. I guess my key value, the one that I guess drives me a lot, is freedom. I really cherish my freedom. So I don't want to buy too many properties, because if I do, then that will compromise that value. So I'll look at other people that are buying more and more and talking about their success. I'm just going, yeah, that's great. If that's right for you, brilliant. But for me, it's not about that. It's about not having to go into an office, not having staff to worry about, not having too many tenants to freak out about, and finding a good balance between work life and that's it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you're giving, no wonder you're back up at 100%. If the approach you have to your properties and your tenants is, I want to give them an incredible place to live. So I'm not in any way surprised. It's great to hear, and I'm not surprised at all. And with regard to your freedom, yeah, absolutely. You don't need to have 50 or 100 HMOs. You don't need to have 100 units to buy back your time. It's the most valuable thing that you have. And if you're not doing what you want with that time, it's kind of irrelevant anyway if you've got 100. On that, Julian, tell us about your best HMO investment to date. It doesn't have to be numerically. It could just be the one that you really loved putting together and you think is the best layout, standard. Just give us your single best HMO investment.
I don't think I've got a favorite, to be honest with you. The best deal though is the one I did last year, which was just ridiculous, because talk about being in the right place at the right time. You know what I mean? People talk about BMV deals. It's weird when people talk about BMV because I've just not seen it, but if it exists, brilliant. But the numbers really are weird when you look
Tell us.
well, the numbers are weird because I don't even know where to start on this one, really, to be honest with you. But I walked into this property, and the good thing about it was it had a loft conversion. So I knew I could turn it into a 4-bed. And the loft had been done. Now, the weird thing is it's cheaper to buy a house in the area that I bought with a loft already converted than it is to buy something without a loft and convert it. You know, work that one out. That's just how it is. So this was cheap anyway. It was well, it wasn't cheap. At the time I thought it was quite expensive, but I looked at it and it was a Part X. Do you know what a Part X is?
Of course, yeah.
So the vendor, the owner of that property, had bought a new property, and the developer had taken that property as Part X on the thing, which is a weird one, but that's what it was. So in my head, when I'm walking around, I'm going, because it's empty, I'm thinking they're going to want to get rid of this at some point. But I offered them, I think it was on a 89,950, and I offered them 80 because I looked at it and thought it needs about 40 grand spending on it. And if I would spend 40 grand on it, it would be over market value by about quite a lot, an uncomfortable amount.
Okay.
But the cash flow would have been great. And it's weird because values in different places. It's just this is what I'm saying is that if I had gone a mile down the road, this house would have been a lot more expensive for exactly the same thing. It just doesn't make sense anyway. So where was I about the deal? Yeah. So I offered 80 and they refused it. So I went up, I looked at for others and I thought, well, that's done. I'm going to go and look for something else. And I found something up the road, which I got accepted, which was in better condition, didn't need anywhere near as much work, but it was a 3-bed. So the cash flow wouldn't have been as good, but it needed a lot less spending on it. Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
So I got that offer accepted anyway. About 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. I'm in the gym. I get a phone call, and it's the agent I made the offer to. And he said, that offer of 80,000 on that property, does that still stand? And I said to him, look, I've made an offer on something else. The ball's rolling. I said, no, the only way I'd be interested in it is if they took 70. Then I'd pull out the other one, and then I'd buy this one. He goes, there's no way they'll take 70. So fine, all right. Anyway, 2 days later, the phone rings, and he goes, that offer of 70, are you sure that's on the table? I said, yeah, if they want it 70. They said, well, it's a deal then. So I tied it up at 70, and this house is probably worth, on paper, 120.
Fab.
So yeah, so even the agent couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Now the thing is, if I would have bought exactly the same house a couple of miles away, it would have been on at 140, and it would have probably sold for about 120 in shit condition. This is the thing, you get to know your area, but this one maxed out was 120, even in good order. So it just, you look at the areas and you go, but what's important in that situation is the rental income. Because if you've got to pay 140 for one thing and you get the same amount of rent per room as one that costs 120, then buy the one that's at 120, but rather than buy the one that's 140, and they're literally 2 miles away, so rents are the same. Anyway, it needed a lot of work doing to it. A lot of cash went into it.
Tell us, what work did it need? What did you do?
It needed bathroom was on the ground floor behind the kitchen. That needed taking upstairs. Rooms needed moving about. There needed an ensuite putting in the loft. A lot of repair works, taking walls down, taking some ceilings came down, replastering pretty much the whole thing. New bathroom, new ensuite, all of that stuff. Fire doors, kitchen. I needed a good kitchen in that one because of it was a very complicated, needed a lot of planning out, but it was done to a very good spec. And actually at the end of it, I left 50,000 in it. Mm-hmm. But it's making me nearly 1,000 a month.
Fantastic.
So that is a good income from that that's a great income from a 4-bed house.
Not many 4-bed houses will give you 4 to 5, I'm guessing.
If you've got a ratio and do that as an 8-bed, get at 100,000 and it's getting you 2 grand a month, that's awesome as well. But I just wouldn't get an 8-bed. I like these little ones.
Yeah.
I have to leave more cash in, but I'm really comfortable with that.
Do they feel much more homely and kind of together in the lower number of bedrooms?
Can I be totally honest with you and tell me my gut feeling on this? Because
Please.
I've been answering these questions for, it seems like quite a long time now. You know, is a smaller house more homely? Does design really make a difference? You know, is painting a feature wall really going to do anything? Well, you know what? I'm really fed up with arguing the point. It's just look at it, you know, just live in it and see. So if you were in a situation where you wanted to rent a room, you had to rent a room. If you've got married and you've got kids, think about what it would like getting a divorce, and you need to get a room somewhere, you know, whatever. You know, this is our product, a room in a house. Now, if you were going to look for somewhere to live and you saw a house with 8 rooms in it and everyone's sharing a kitchen, or you go into a smaller little house that's really hasn't been changed, it's still the same basic layout as if it was a home, it's got a nice living room, there's 2 other people or 3 other people living there, which one would you go for?
Oh, there's no two ways about it. I'd take the smaller one all day.
Well, there's nothing I can add to that. It's all about having to at the end of the day, we have to sell our product. You know, if the product is, a lot of people go, well, I'll put in an ensuite to make it more saleable. Well, for me, I think about really the whole experience, not just the ensuite where you're going to take a dump. I'll think about the whole experience and about really where would I really want to live if I needed a room. And ultimately, when I think about it, really, I would choose to live in a smaller house. And so I'm thinking, well, if that's the case, and I have to do that because that's what's important. If I want to sell my product amongst a lot of other competition, what have I got? What can I do that makes me different from other people? And that's how you stand out, is by doing something that's not the same as everybody else and offering something that people genuinely would really love.
Have you seen any of the larger HMOs that you think?
I converted them for years.
Yeah. So can you liken any of the 10 or 20 beds or the huge ones, you know, the unconventional non-family homes that you thought, you know what, this still feels homely? Does that exist in your mind?
Some of the student ones, yeah, but not professional ones. The difference between student HMOs and professional HMOs is in student houses, you tend to get a group and they all kind of party together and they kind of commune together. That's just a natural, you know, dynamic of a student house. Professional HMOs is a different animal because you've got unrelated people in it, which is why some councils have a different set of safety regulations for a professional HMO that they do for a student one, because I'm sure they've done you know, studies on how people react in a fire if they're a group and how people react in a fire if they're unrelated, which is why in some areas you don't need to put fire doors on bedrooms in student accommodation in bedrooms. So if that's the case, so going back to the kind of question about what I'd like and what I don't like, etc., about the big ones, I just think the dynamic is different in a large HMO. So for me, I can't, if I try to picture how a big HMO will go in the future, let's go 5, 7, 10 years down the line, because, and I go back to this because when I was an estate agent, I distinctly remember the properties that I kept on having to go back to week after week, month after month, that didn't sell, were the properties where landlords had just done a conversion without care, or converted a property into studio flats or something and done it quite cheaply, or it was just tired and knackered, and no one would go near them. And I don't want to invest in property just to have to give up in 10 years. You know, that's not, because I really, really value the freedom that I've got more than anything else. So why would I invest in something where long term I just think it's going to fail? Yeah. So I just don't do it, because I just think that big HMOs are not the same. There's no long term. For me, the only long term evidence I've got with what HMOs are like long term are the crappy ones. are the kind of the ones that I was telling you about when I was doing the student and the professional. They're the only ones I can go back to and say, how are they doing in 10 years? And yeah, they're fine, but they tend to have a lot more problems with tenants and a lot more churn, and you have to manage them. The kind of guys that I know that have got a lot of those types of properties always have a kind of heavy bloke on tap.
Yeah.
That can go in and not harass, but certainly intimidate.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be involved in all of that stuff.
No, I mean, if it's not your goal, is it? I mean, it's obviously different for everyone. It depends, what journey people are on. But, your journey is quite clearly to provide high quality accommodation, which people really enjoy spending their time in, and don't just enjoy, escaping from work for a few hours before they have to go back. So it's a very different approach, and it is a great and noble approach.
Oh,
absolutely. It really is.
Mm.
Julian, tell us about one significant mistake that you've made in your HMO business that by sharing, you think you might help others avoid.
Okay, it's a tough one because it's a tough one. I'll share it. Whether people will gain from it, I do not know, because it's a tough one. And I will admit I'm a creative person, so learning by this mistake suited me down to a T. But it might not suit everybody, and it might not go down well with everybody. Okay, but my biggest regret was staying safe when I did my first HMO in terms of its presentation and design. If I look at, I've had to redo it. So the reason why I've had to redo it is because the market has progressed and the consumer has become more demanding, and the competition has become a lot more intelligent and also more design aware. And this one just wasn't up to scratch. I mean, it was just, when I was and I can see, the thing is, I can fully understand, because I did it, and even though in my heart of hearts I would have been more adventurous, but I can understand why people do not want to do things that are maybe outside of the comfort, or outside the box, because it takes guts to do that, and I didn't have the guts to do it on my first one, and that's what I regret, is that I didn't think outside of the box when I did my first HMO.
Give us an example.
Well, I just copied what most people were doing, which is basically very kind of bland, plain interior.
A lot of magnolia?
It wasn't magnolia. I didn't go that far. I can't physically put magnolia in. I can't pick up a pot. I'm allergic to just looking at it. But it might well have been. Do you know what I mean? It really wasn't that. It wasn't really a significant step in any direction. It might as well have been magnolia, to be honest with you. I played it really, really safe, and I guess I was just played it too safe. And I've needed to go back to that property, and I've had to update it. So, to me, what lesson did that teach me? What lesson did that teach me? And the lesson it taught me is, do it. For me, it's got to be well designed. And what is good design is a really big question that we have not got time to go into. But once you start looking at what makes good design good, it's not just feature walls and fancy cushions. And I've had to, because I knew that I'd made that mistake and I didn't want to make that mistake again, I've done a lot of research into design. And so I don't make that mistake again.
Good. That's a good one to share with the audience, because, we've all been guilty of looking at the cost sheet and going, what can I afford to do? And I think taking a longer term view, especially on design, will pay dividends in the long run. So no, that's a really...
In terms of cost, it was cheaper at the beginning, but I've had to go back and do it all again. Not all, but a lot of it again. It would have been far cheaper to do it right first time. But there was no one really, when I first doing it, there really wasn't anybody that was really thinking about design in that way. And I had to just go through all of that myself, because I had no one I could get inspiration from. So
it's a great lesson to share. I think it's a false economy that you're saving money. So that's another good a good little nugget. Julian, tell us about your HMO portfolio plans for the next 12 months.
I'm going to get one more. Well, I've sold one. I'm going to get another one to get the better thing, and that's it.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I'm just going to enjoy the benefits of having it and let it flow, because that's it. That's what I'm using it for. It's a use. It's not a means. It's just, it was a means to an end. The end is in sight. When I get to that end, it will just be there to service me and my family.
Excellent. And apart from continuing putting one more property in the portfolio this year, is there anything else that you're up to within property that you'd like to share with HMO Nation?
Thank you. Yes, I do run courses. I've got 2 courses that I do. I do a course in mini HMOs, where I teach people. I would say, to start with, I'm an ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, trained coach. If anyone knows about these levels, ILM level 7. Which means I've kind of got more of a coaching style than a mentoring style, which means what I like to do is give people the tools and the mindset to do things themselves. I have no interest in holding people's hands and taking them down the road and showing them all the stuff. I will tell them what they need to know, give them the tools, give them the confidence, and then let them go, and they will do it. So my training is short, sharp, shock. I don't do long, kind of winded things, but I do a 1-day interior design workshop where I teach people project management and design, and that seems to work really well. I've had some really great not feedback, but I've had really great results from people that have done it. It awakens creativity, and people can just put that creative stuff into their business. It's proven to be more profitable. Not just me saying it's proven, but go online and just look up the design index study. Just Google design index study or design value index, those 2 things, design value index, design index studies, and you'll see the value of design. You'll see it in numbers. Studies have been done, so there's that. So I do that, and I do the Minimo course, which is the same thing. Basically, all the things that people need to know about investing in small HMOs, I teach in a day, including the design and stuff like that. And it's short, sharp, intense. Get what you need to know. Do some practice. We do some practice, a lot of practical practicing as well. So real life kind of, what would you do? Get people thinking outside the box and really get people thinking. So I do those 2. I do a live course and I do a online course, and I do coaching as well. So coaching can be on all sorts of things. So if people want to make a change in their life, and they just need somebody to help them facilitate, give them a safe space to talk things through, then I love doing it, because I love seeing people change and become more self-aware. And from the power of that self-awareness, they can fix their lives, So I help people in that way as well. And that's it. That's me in a nutshell.
Fab. Excellent. Julian, what advice would you give to current HMO investors?
My advice would be, have this mindset. Think of yourself as coming into the market right at the end and work back from that.
Got it. Love it. It's something good to think about. And how about any advice you'd give to people who are looking to get into HMO investing for the very first time?
My gut feeling is don't. Just don't do it. Don't let anyone tell you what to do.
That's more like it.
Make your own mind up, go with your gut feeling. And if you don't know enough to have a gut feeling, look, listen, use 2 of those, keep that shut.
Love it.
So don't sign a checkbook, don't take your credit card, don't say yes to anybody. just listen, look, keep your mouth shut for a while, and then build a network as well. So build a set of people that you can talk to in a kind of adult way. This may sound stupid, but remain in your adult. Don't get all het up and don't get too overexcited. Don't act like a crazy child. Don't act like, whatever. Just stay in the adult. 2 ears, 2 eyes. And then if you're going to talk, do it. Think first and just observe. See what people are doing. Take it all in as much as you can. And then you'll have a bit more of an instinct. Develop that, and
got it. Think first, act second. I like it.
Well, maybe
Julian?
maybe actually no. The 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. Don't forget that rule.
Okay. Julian, before we sign off, we'd like you to recommend one great HMO resource or business book that you'd like to share. Then if you can let HMO Nation know how they can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
I think if I was going to add my flavor into your mix, I'm sure there are people that will give plenty of, go-to places that to do with tax, sourcing, whatever it is, the strategy you want to do. Mine is more about the presentation of the product and how to create something really good and get inspiration. Is Pinterest.
Yes.
So Pinterest is a wonderful place for getting inspiration for planning rooms and layouts and designs and colors and, bedrooms. And you can enter in things like, student bedroom, small kitchen design, ensuite design. And you enter in all these terms and build up a library of photographs that you're attracted to. Put your own mark on these things, but the design is really your product, what you're saying to the world about you as a business owner. It represents you, and you'll attract the kind of people that you want to attract that way. So but Pinterest is where you will get so much inspiration and resource for what you want to do in terms of the design, and go with it, be brave. That was my mistake. I wasn't brave enough. So that would be my contribution to your salad.
Great, thanks. And how about how HMO Nation can connect with you if they wish?
They can connect with me. I have a best way to do it really is either through Facebook Messenger. So find me on Facebook and send me a message, or email. My email address is julian@iconliving.co.uk. That's julian@iconliving.co.uk. I have a website, which is www.iconliving.co.uk. So you can catch me there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Julian, thanks for sharing your journey. We salute you. Let's get an HMO high five. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupert. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this and want more informational, educational and inspirational HMO property content, then please hit the subscribe button and give us a like. See you next time. This content was brought to you in association with hmohub.co.uk, the UK's #1 HMO platform, connecting the HMO property community.